Hi there. Hope you have seen Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker or have at least watched my last movie review because there are spoilers in this video. Now that the spoiler alert is out of the way, you can finally talk about this movie. I mean, man, do I want to talk about this movie. I can't believe how incredible it was. Like, every second of it, just so captivating. Loved the characters. The plot was thick in this story. No, it wasn't. This movie was horrible. I didn't care for it. I still bought the popcorn bin. I still bought the Chewie outfit. And I'm ashamed to say I saw this movie at 1:30 in the morning, and I'm recording it afterwards without getting any sleep in, let's say, I think 27 hours now. So, yeah, I'm ready to talk about this movie. To start off, this movie was strong in the beginning. I liked it. I do have to say I enjoyed the beginning of this movie. And by beginning, I mean the first 5 minutes. And that was it. Because the first 5 minutes of this movie, the scroll that comes up, we find out that Emperor Palpatine has sent out a message. People know that he is alive. We don't. We don't know how he's alive. But people know he's alive. Kylo Ren is on a search to find him and kill him. Pretty much, that was the kind of the vibe I was getting. I couldn't really tell if he was trying to kill him or like learn from him or take him on as part of his evil First Order Empire. But I'm 99% sure he was trying to kill him, because there's a scene where they're talking and Kylo Ren says, "Why don't I just kill you right now?" And the Emperor says, "Well, first you have to bring me the girl, and then I'm going to give you the final order." And the final order is the biggest group of Imperial ships that you could ever see. And that was one of the dumbest things in this movie. I will get to it. Happens later in the movie. But, I mean, everything is dumb in this movie. So we find out that Snoke was one of Palpatine's pawns. He just kind of grew them in a tank, and he gave Snoke to Kylo and used Snoke to manipulate Kylo. And, yep, there's Snoke's backstory. That's all we got out of that. Then, right away into the movie, they go, "Oh, but you already know who Rey's parentage is, right?" And it's like, so we're still on that? Let's see, episode 7, yeah, they mentioned, "Oh, my parents left me, they're never coming back." That's all it was. They were just people who left Rey. But then episode 8 comes along, and it's, who's Rey's parents? That's the big question in the movie, and I don't really know why. Like, no one cares about it in episode 7, yet in episode 8, that's the big question, and episode 8 happens immediately after episode 7. There's maybe a few seconds pass in between the time of episode 7 and episode 8. So that's the big question, and they settle it by saying nobody. Nobody is, they were nobodies. They were drunken traders who sold Rey into slavery for booze money. I mean, that's all we got to know about Rey. And then in this movie, like I said, right away they go, "Oh no, she still has a mystery as to who her parents are." And then it cuts to the Resistance, and we see a really neat shot of Rey training. She has rocks floating around her, and just lifting rocks was the thing that came to mind. And we see her do a training course, and she doesn't make it all the way through it because, for some odd reason, her mind is still connecting with Kylo Ren's mind, even though Snoke is dead. So why is that happening? They don't explain it. It just happens. Like, they're bridging each other's minds. That's what's going on. And they find out that Palpatine is back, and there's a mole in the First Order, a traitor who's giving them information about what Kylo's doing, and they know, the Resistance now knows that they have to find a map, a Sith Wayfinder is what they called it, and it'll take them directly to Exegol, I think was the name of the planet. I don't know, there's so many planets in this movie. And that's where Palpatine has been living his entire life. And I should mention, Palpatine showed Kylo the final order by lifting a whole bunch of these Imperial ships out of the ground. So that's what he spent from episode 6, when he, died, he built all these ships and then decided, hey, you guys haven't talked about me at all in episode 7 or 8, so I'm going to make a big comeback. I'm going to be in the opening scene of this movie. And so that happens there. The Resistance goes on this long, boring, goose hunt of a mission. They go to a sand planet, to a festival that really doesn't have any point to the story, except that they run into Lando Calrissian. Like, oh yeah, he was there. He was in one of the earlier Star Wars movies. We got to put him in this one. And so yeah, they throw him in there. He kind of gives them the idea of, oh, you can go to this planet and get this done, and that's to help C-3PO release the information, because he's the only one who can read the key when they find it. They find the key on this sand planet, and they find a blade to the key. Sorry, it's early in the morning. I don't care if you're confused. I was confused. You read this dagger. C-3PO was the only one who could translate it, since he can read all these languages, and Lando told them, oh, since C-3PO won't read Sith, it's not in his program, you have to go to this guy on a different planet. He'll wipe C-3PO's brain, and he'll be able to read it to you. So that's what they do. But on this sand planet, Chewbacca goes to tell Rey that they are leaving, and Rey's maybe, 100 yards from the ship, and Chewbacca makes it 30 feet from the ship and gets caught by the Knights of Ren in an Imperial ship. And it's just kind of like, really? No one else saw these people catch him? But then we see the goofiest part of the movie. Not even. There's so many. It's a big mess. We see Rey, see the ship flying away. Kylo is standing very far away from her after she took down his ship. You see that part in the trailer. He's flying at her, cuts his ship, and he tumbles and walks away from an explosion, like bursts into flames, and he just walks away perfectly fine. And Rey is trying to hold back the ship in the sky that is holding Chewbacca. Yes, she's using the Force to hold a spaceship in the air as it's trying to fly away. And then Kylo, from a very far distance away, is doing the exact same thing, but trying to pull the ship away from Rey. And yet Rey still holds on, and she ends up shooting Force lightning out of her hand and blowing up the ship. Therefore, killing Chewbacca, finding out, basically telling the audience that she is a Palpatine. And it was just kind of like, really? That's how it's going to happen? And from there on out, it gets so confusing and so boring. There's no character development in this movie whatsoever. Kylo and Rey still have their bridged minds. The Resistance sneaks onto an Imperial ship, and Rey is looking at Darth Vader's burnt up mask, because Kylo still has that because he's sentimental about it, or he's a hoarder, I don't know. And he even said that he was going to be stronger than Vader. So why did he look at Vader's mask? It makes no sense. And Kylo apparently wasn't there, but Rey was looking at it, and they can now see each other and have Force battles against each other, almost as if the Force now has online multiplayer. Like, you can play against each other in different spots. It was just never happened before. Kylo's in this part of the universe, Rey's in this part, yet they're fighting in Kylo's part. It's just... what? It didn't make any sense. And then they had things where objects could be passed through. Like in one scene, a lightsaber is put behind someone's back, and in a different part of the room, that same lightsaber is pulled out from behind someone else's back who can use the Force. And it's like, why don't you just throw it? Like, that would have been fine. Or I don't know. Get them out of there. Teleport them out of there instead of giving away your lightsaber. But, there's one flaw. Rey goes on to find out that she is a Palpatine, and we also find out that Luke and Leia have always known that, which also makes no sense, because why in episode 8 did Luke ask Rey who she was? Because he already knew, and why would he want to train a Palpatine? honestly, I'm trying to make this review short. There's just so much to talk about. So much happens in this movie. There's so many tangents. They tried to make it so that there were no questions left over. Yet that didn't really work out too well because I still have questions. And working with all these tangents didn't go well. Like, they have Lando Calrissian, and then he's gone for most of the movie, and he shows back up in the rebellion. But it's just like, oh, yeah, he's here, and he was doing this. Now he's with us. But then going on to Rey and Kylo. Rey is searching for this Sith finder, and Kylo finds her, and he destroys the Sith finder. So there you go. There's some pointless plot right there for you to chew on. And then they have a lightsaber battle, which I didn't care about at all because they were both just swinging as hard as they could. There was no technique or movement behind it. They were just and going after it. Just boring. And Rey convinces Kylo that he should be good. And then Leia, we get a vision of Leia back at the Resistance base, and she goes, Ben! And then she bites the dust. She dies right there. Like, why? I don't know. She died. But for some reason, that motivated Kylo Ren to see Han Solo, his father. And Han Solo approaches him. Harrison Ford still plays Han Solo. Thank God they didn't get a different actor, but even though he hates playing Han Solo. And I mean, it was kind of a goofy sequence. It's the exact same thing as what happens in Episode 7, but with the good turnout, where Kylo Ren doesn't kill Harrison or Han Solo. He doesn't kill his father. He takes his lightsaber and yeets it into the water, which was kind of dumb because he could have used that when he was fighting the Knights of Ren, which was what I mentioned in my review. The people who were in this movie for, I don't know, maybe 3 to 5 minutes, even though they've been talked about for the last 2 movies. We've all wanted to see them. We've all wanted to see them in action, and all we see them do is take Chewbacca, who also turned out to be alive. I forgot to mention that. They went onto the Imperial ship, saved Chewbacca. That's how Rey saw the mask of Darth Vader and everything. But yeah, Chewbacca was fine. It was all just a fluke. Don't worry, played ya. And yeah, so we see the Knights of Ren do nothing in this movie except get crapped on by Kylo when he's fighting them with Rey's lightsaber. That's the scene where Rey takes the lightsaber and puts it behind her head, and in a different room, Kylo pulls it out from behind his head and starts fighting the Knights of Ren, and he destroys them, even though they're supposed to be almost as good of warriors as Kylo, or now it's Ben Solo. And so Ben Solo's good, Leia's dead. He saw a vision of Han Solo, and now the Resistance found out that all of the ships that the Emperor made over the years of his hiding are basically Death Stars, because he blows up a planet with one of them. Yeah, he made 1,000 Death Stars, but the size of Imperial Star Destroyers. It's just, how? Like, what if... So you spent your life's work fixing the 2 things that failed, one of them that got you killed, and even George Lucas said he's definitely dead, and you put them into ships thinking that they would work? Like, this has never worked. Why would that be your goal? I'm still going to destroy every planet with my 1,000 ships. But the Resistance finds out that he has these ships, and they say, okay, we have to go destroy them. You know, just like every time there's a Death Star. So they go on a mission to Exegol. I think that's the name of the planet, like I said. And they try and destroy these ships, but all they have to do is take down the command ship, and I guess that works. But the Resistance is small, so they send out another distress signal kind of thing, and Lando's job is to do that. He reaches out to everyone and says, hey, we need your help. Remember when in Episode 8 you didn't show up because there were so little of us and you didn't think anyone else would show up, so you thought you'd die or you'd be caught by the First Order and you'd be hurt and whatnot. Bad things would happen to you. it looked like 1,000,000 ships showed up in this when they're on the planet fighting in the sky against these ships. The Resistance is there. They're like, oh no, we're done for. And all of a sudden, just a crap ton of people show up. Like, so many people. Not a single one that we know. Meanwhile, Rey has approached Palpatine, asking about her lineage, which makes no sense whatsoever. Who did Palpatine procreate with to make her parents who had her? We see her parents, they really were nobodies. Her parents leave her to protect her. Palpatine kills her parents. But if Palpatine is her grandfather, wouldn't Palpatine had to have killed his own daughter or son to get to Rey? But if it was his own granddaughter, and then he had his daughter, wouldn't it just be easier to take daughter or son, whatever it is? I don't know. But, you know, you had to make something interesting out of this movie, and yet it still wasn't. So Rey Palpatine, there, we've established that. That's the big bomb in this movie, and it's really not that big of a bomb because I didn't feel any impact from it. There is no emotional impact in this movie. There is no character development. I didn't care about any of the characters on the screen. And thank God, Rose Tico is not a main character in this movie. She is so damn boring in The Last Jedi. Horrible. Like, her and Finn in that movie. So bad. Finn almost had a good character arc, but she ruined it, and that made me hate her character. She wasn't too bad up until then, and then she flew right into Finn and said, we're gonna win by saving the ones we love. Okay. We also could have won if we had saved the ones we love by sacrificing one of them to save the entire Resistance, you know, instead of cracking open their safe like an egg. But, you know, you gotta have the sentimental value of a boring Disney movie and whatever. So now the people are fighting. The people have come to help the Resistance, and the Imperial ships are firing away. They're destroying the fleet. Rey has confronted Palpatine. Kylo is down there and confronts Palpatine alongside her. They used Leia's lightsaber that she used when she was training in the Force with Luke when they were both younger. Somehow she just pulls this out. She's like, oh yeah, I forgot I had this. There you go. And so they use that. They try and attack Palpatine, but Palpatine darn near kills them both, and he yeets Ben Solo into a deep valley. We never see him come back out, but we see Rey kind of stumble and get up, and she pulls out the lightsaber, and Palpatine's like, you must die, and he shoots his electricity out of his hands at her, his Force lightning, and she blocks it with the lightsaber. And then she Force grabs the other one and pulls the two lightsabers in front of her, reflecting the lightning back to Palpatine. Palpatine, you know, the same thing happened to him in Episode 3, but this time Palpatine's Force lightning sheds his skin. It just like completely destroys his body when a ritual is supposed to be going on of her killing Palpatine so that he could be stronger. And it makes no sense. There are random people watching Rey and Palpatine, and it's like an arena, and we never know who they are. It looks like a cult. They're all cloaked. You can't see any of their faces, but they're all moving back and forth and like kind of grunting. And there's thousands of them watching Rey and Palpatine, and it made no sense as to why they were there. But yeah, so Rey kills Palpatine, right? Completing his plan of, Rey, you need to kill me so that I can take over your power and become even stronger. But for some reason, that just... We'll forget about that now. We were just kidding. And so Ben Solo does come out of that ditch now. And Rey died due to the, effort. I don't know. She held two lightsabers. So she dies to effort, and Ben Solo's like, oh my gosh, I should do the stupid Force healing thing that no one's ever done, but this time I'm going to bring her back to life. The ultimate healing. So he brings her back to life. Yes, Ben Solo, the brand new good guy in this movie, is like, hey, I'm gonna save you. Brings her back. And then they have one of the cringiest moments in the movie, the Reylo kiss scene. Those two kiss each other for no reason whatsoever. They hated each other over the last two movies. She called him a monster and a snake. He thought she was just a vile and scavenger and just gross. Oh, we'll kiss. We'll throw that in there. And that's when people in the audience cheered and erupted and they went, ow! Like, why? And then Ben Solo slumps over and dies. So I guess he gave his life for Rey to live. And then we see him disappear. We don't know if he turned into a Force ghost, but it's a very similar disappearance. Like, his body just gone. His cloak goes flat, and then at the same time, Leia's body does the same thing. So, hip hip hooray. I forgot to mention, Palpatine does some lightning with the sky and takes out all the Imperial ships, and or not Imperial ships, all the Resistance fighters and their ships, and the Imperial ships are back out. But once Palpatine dies, then all the ships start to crash, especially when they take the command ship out. Poe, Finn, and all them do that, and they save the day. They stop the Death Star from blowing up, and they go back to the Resistance base, and everyone's cheering. And this is where some really stupid stuff happens. Like, Chewie gets a medal from Maz Kanata. And you probably think, why would that be dumb? He gets a medal, he deserves it. Yeah, he deserved it in 1977 when they didn't give him the trophy, and that's what this was. They were like, hey, here's your medal. You did well, and the people who watch this movie kind of complain that we didn't give you a medal. So here's a medal. Okay? Didn't need to see that. Didn't care about seeing that. That was no point to the plot. He was never like, darn, I wish I got that medal. The only people who cared about that medal were people who aren't in the Star Wars universe. It was fan service. And fan service is the worst kind of plot. It's horrible. It makes no sense. Go look at Avengers Endgame. And shockingly enough, to all you people who actually know me, I hated Endgame, and I liked Endgame better than this movie. This movie's horrible. Here at the end, they do a cheesy, we all made it, a cry, group hug. C-3PO gets his memory back from R2-D2, so no harm, no foul. And then there's two girls got a kiss, got to throw that into the movie because it's 2019 now, almost 2020. We better start showing all different parts of the spectrum because that totally was plot changing. Wow, I walked out of the movie feeling great because of that. And there's so many things there. Then there's a shot with Lando and some random girl that they just picked up on a planet. They're like, hey, you're gonna come with us now. Just randomly picked her up, and Lando says, oh, I'm from this planet. And he says, and yourself? And she goes, I don't know, I thought about going to go find it. And he goes, well, maybe we should go find it. And it's kind of in the what are you up to tonight kind of way. It's very weird, it's very perverted, and it's very creepy, and that is not what I wanted to see from Lando Calrissian. Billy D. Williams is great in episode 5 and 6. This one, he was just you could tell, he was just I'm glad to be in a Star Wars movie, I'll do whatever you want, because he did whatever they wanted. It was weird. And then the movie ends. No, it doesn't. There's still more. Oh my gosh, when will this movie be over? Yeah, that's what I was thinking while watching it. 4 o'clock in the morning. Rey has to, she has to go back to Tatooine, and she takes the 2 Skywalker lightsabers. Anakin Skywalker's and Leia Organa's lightsaber. The one that came into the story about 30 minutes ago. She wraps them up in a towel, and then she buries them in the ground by force pushing them in the ground, because it's really hard to work to just dig the sand and cover those up. Then she pulls out a lightsaber. A yellow lightsaber. Why? Why does she need a lightsaber? If you just completely annihilated all the threats, you got rid of Kylo Ren, you got rid of Emperor Palpatine, you got rid of the First Order, the Final Order, and all the stormtroopers and whatnot out there. You got rid of them all. Why do you need a lightsaber? What do you need to fight? Nothing. There's nothing. And then the dumbest ending to a movie I might have ever seen. Horrible. she sees Luke and Leia off in the distance as Force ghosts. And someone, I don't even remember who it was who asked her. I pushed this out of my brain so fast. Oh yeah, no, it's just a random passerby. She's like, "Who are you?" And she goes, "Rey." And it's like, takes a pause, looks down at her lightsaber, looks over at the Skywalkers or whatever, and Organa, and she goes, "Rey Skywalker." And then you get the shot of her, Rey, standing with her leg up on the dirt mound, looking at the two suns on Tatooine. BB-8 comes up next to her. Roll credits. Oh, that movie was boring. I don't even like talking about it. There is no good part to this movie, except one thing that I laughed out loud that I know they intentionally did. Emperor Palpatine says "do it" in this movie. He does the "do it," and it's great. I thoroughly enjoyed that. But I laughed hysterically at the Force healing. That showed up in The Mandalorian. Spoiler alert for that. This is already a spoiler review. And that showed up in The Mandalorian the day before this movie came out. Now it takes all this time for them to show them in the movies, and it's going to happen 3 times in the movie. 3 times. Rey heals a snake. Ooh, cool. Then she heals Kylo Ren because she stabs him with a lightsaber. He falls to the ground. That's when he's like, "Oh my gosh, I should become good." And she pulls it out. She's like, "Don't worry, I'll save you." And just fixes him. She's like, "Ben, you're okay," and leaves him. And then at the very end, when Kylo saves her life, it's just, wait, where did these Force abilities come from? And if they are actually real, at least have mentioned it or given some sort of hint to it. But the only way that you would know is The Mandalorian. And for the people who can't afford Disney Plus, you've never seen that before. And it's like, what? This like 21-year-old girl in this movie, or she's supposed to be like 21, she can heal people, and her arch nemesis, whatever you call it, he can bring people back from the dead with the Force. Isn't that what Darth Plagueis was supposed to do, or be able to do, like save people from death? But I don't know. There's so many flaws with this movie, so many things I didn't even touch on. I just went through a quick rundown of the plot of this movie. I found it to be very boring. I know this is a longer video, but this is my spoiler review. I hated this movie. Tell me what you think in the comments. This movie sucks.